These are some tips that you could employ in your classroom. One thing that you definitely need to do is select materials early, because all the accommodation that college can provide takes up a lot of time to set up. For example, if someone needs to get material in Braille, it could take up anywhere from 1 week to 6 weeks. So if you have your material already all figured out, then student doesn't have to wait like 6 weeks later they get this material, and they have to not now then they have to constantly playing catch-up games, and while waiting for 6 weeks to get the material done, you might be missing out the material that has been taught, and it will even make it even harder for the students to catch up. Also, providing accessible format. Accessible format simply means something that something that students can use in an alternative way so they can access. For example, if you give scanned image, make it into PDF, and if you just hand it out to your blind student, he might not be able to read it because it's just image. But if you applied OCR, which is optical character recognition, then the student can read with a screen reader. So then just simply doing OCR, you are making the same material accessible. And also give opportunity to demonstrate knowledge or skill in multiple different ways. What that means, let's say if you need to analyze piece or something, that instead of just accepting all the assignments by paper, or you can go over with students orally, then he can give the same information that other sighted students give on a paper. Instead of paper, he'll be demonstrating the skills or his knowledge orally. And so doing that, you are providing alternative way to assess his skill or knowledge. And another tip is to be descriptive as possible. Try to avoid a word here and there, or this and that. Instead of using those words, you could say something like from bar 1 through bar 5, or this chord, C major chord, or this C going up to E, going down to G, or whatever. Try to avoid using something like this bar or that bar or this chord or this note, those kind of things. Again, this not only benefits blind students, but maybe person sitting far from the front of the board, he might be able to benefit from specifically you're calling out what you're pointing at, or what you're writing. And try to speak as much content as possible on whatever you're writing on the board, and play as much as possible on the piano or prepare some audio example. It benefits sighted students as well. They now get to see the music, but now they can hear as well. So it works for both population. Also address by their names. Let's say if some blind students raise hand, and you just say yes, go ahead, and you might not know if someone else raises hand, and like, is he talking to me or is he talking to someone else? So instead of saying yes, go ahead, you could say yes, Chi. You have a comment, or you have a question, then he knows that you are directly talking to him. Right? And give comment through emails or in person. A lot of times teachers will just mark papers and just write down feedback, and that's pretty useless for blind students. So if you could just write it on the computer and send it to email, or just give comments in person in your office hour. And another thing is to allow taping the lecture. Some people might be a little worried about this practice, but it's very common practice. A lot of blind students will ask you first, of course, if it's okay to record the classroom lectures. And I think there's a policy that whatever they record, they cannot share. It's just for education purpose. So you might want to check with the counseling advising center to make sure if you have those concerns. But it's fairly common practice across all United States in all education system.